with organizational strategy. If you're in a leadership position and one of your roles is to be strategic, then it's not just about your ability to think with an overarching umbrella. It's also about your ability to link that to the policies, practices, procedures, and people that allow that to be actualized in how decisions are made, in what is valued, in what is prioritized, in how people are steered. And that doesn't just come from being an ideas person or from connecting a couple of dots. For you to be able to influence strategy and use strategy to influence others, you have to be able to link it to the different challenges and resistance and tensions that exist within the organization. Otherwise, what tends to happen is strategy stays up here, people stay down here, and in between exists the reality of all the tensions that live between the two. And it causes all sorts of hassle, like middle managers get stuck having to be operationally minded and then being told to be strategic for leadership potential, but then they're only rewarded for operational tasks and they're fired for a lack of performance operationally. So if your practices don't engage strategy throughout the organization, right down to the customer, then you're not being strategic. You're just thinking strategically in a room that has no real consequences, writing up a report, publishing it, talking about your strategy, but you haven't actually connected the dots down and weaved the strategy throughout the organization or throughout your team so that people can make good decisions using this strategy, so that people can connect to the strategy as the overarching guide that's relied upon. So if your policies, if your practices, if your procedures, and if your people aren't connected to strategy, then your strategy isn't implementable, for want of a better word. Your strategy will constantly be left behind at the points of where the tension really exists in the organization. And so if strategy is part of your work as a leader, you need to think about that and incorporate that in your decision making. There's no short way around it. And then the next layer of my conversation about strategy is this. If you don't have a leadership strategy, you will find yourself pulled and moved and firefighting and reactive depending on what presents. And you won't have a clear, concise, supportive way of moving through your organization, building your reputation, being consistent, having an influence. You won't have that because you haven't developed your own leadership strategy, which is the overall strategy that you use to guide your approach to leadership. And you use to decide when is the time to stand, when is the time to sit, what you accept and what you can't accept. If you're not using that, then you're always going to be moved by other people. You're always going to just be reacting to other people's agendas, whims and feelings. And that's not leading. That's reacting. That's leaning on managing, but it's not necessarily invoking leadership. And so to have good organizational strategy weaved throughout the organization results in more of a practical use of strategy and a closer link between strategy and frontline. So whoever your service providers are, whoever is working in the workshop or is managing your customers or is supporting outcomes, they need to be closer. And while you may not get them closer because they can't be in the same conversation necessarily at a global level, it needs to be weaved throughout the organization so everyone at every level can speak to their role in strategy. And that is going to speak to the why and engagement and commitment and all of the things we're trying to foster the workforce with. And then the second part is for you at a personal level. If you don't have a leadership strategy for how you're going to do all of that, you're going to find yourself pulled in different directions. And so I'm going to leave it there. That's my 2 cents on organizational and leadership strategy.